about what's being alleged right now. And well, you're certainly someone who knows about allegations, having been, well, we use the term loosely, UN weapons inspector. But one of those people who, for the United Nations, went into Iraq before the U.S. invaded to investigate whether Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction.
Well, remember, please, that I was in Iraq in 1991 as well, following up on the first war, where we had some very cooperative activities with the U.S. and with other agencies in Europe. So it goes back a long ways. And what I see is that in 1995, people tried to derail the work that IAEA was doing in Iraq by producing forged documents. And they were extremely good forgeries. They spent a lot of time trying to make them look like real Iraqi documents, the problem being that they were forgeries. And at that time, the action team went to Iraq and, with the Iraqis' help, pointed out what the problems were. When I look at the documents that were being discussed now, both IAEA's weapons report and the leaks that have come out, they look just the same. It looks like the same pattern of forgeries. Furthermore, in 2002, we were given forgeries on aluminum tubes. Well, we were given bad information on aluminum tubes, shoddy analysis, forged documents that supposedly came from Niger. It all proved not to be true. So before we jump off the cliff again, I think we ought to know if this stuff is genuine.
You wrote a piece in 2012 for Bloomberg, headline, "Nuclear Arms Charge Against Iran is No Slam Dunk." So are you seeing a pattern here?
Yes, there's certainly a pattern in bad information being provided, and it's coming from a few sources. The one really thing that bothers me at this point is that in 2002, it was the U.S. that was cheerleading to start a war, and this time around, the IAEA has signed on, and they're part of this innuendo and sloppy information that looks like they are also advocating for war.
Going back to 2002, 2003, how was pressure applied directly to you? What you were seeing on the ground in Iraq, and then what was being told to the American people?
Well, there was no connection between what we were seeing because we were told from the U.S. mission, the people that we dealt with, that they really didn't want to hear what we had to say. And it was clear to us as we carried out the inspections from November until March 2002 to 2003 that nobody was listening. We were going around and saying we've solved the problem with the aluminum tubes, they're for rockets. We find these forgeries of uranium documents, and no one was listening. So what I saw being presented to the American people by, say, Colin Powell's speech to the UN, it was completely at odds with the truth.
Some sort of a fantasy land being built up here, as it was with Iraq. The same sort of no lessons learned. Obviously, look, I have been reporting about Iran, and I can tell you that since '04. Under George Bush and particularly the Vice President, Mr. Cheney, Cheney was particularly concerned there were secret facilities for building a weapon, which are much different than the enrichment. We have enrichment in Iran. They've acknowledged it. They have inspectors there. There are cameras there, etc. This is all. Iran's a signatory to the Non-Proliferation Treaty. Nobody's accusing them of any cheating. In fact, the latest report that everybody's so agog about also says that, once again, we find no evidence that Iran has diverted any uranium that it's enriching. And it's also enriching essentially to very low levels for peaceful purposes. So they say, 3.8%. And so there is a small percentage being enriched to 20% for medical use, but that's quite small, also under cameras, under inspection. What you have is, in those days, in '04, '05, '06, or '07, even until the end of their term in office, Cheney kept on having the Joint Special Operations Force Command, JSOC. They would send teams inside Iran. They would work with various dissident groups, the Azeris, the Kurds, even Jandela, which is a very fanatic Sunni opposition group. And they would do everything they could to try and find evidence of an undeclared underground facility. We monitored everything. We have incredible surveillance. In those days, what we did then, we can even do better now. And some of the stuff's very technical, very classified, but I can tell you there's not much you can do in Iran right now without us finding out something about it. They found nothing. Nothing. No evidence of any weaponization. In other words, no evidence of a facility to build the bomb. They have facilities to enrich, but not separate facilities for building a bomb. This is simply a fact.
I think you can boil it down to two things. One is that the IAEA is on top of the enrichment issue. And so the question that's really going on in Vienna in the next few weeks is how much uranium will they be allowed to make? And IAEA is not even at the table because everybody assumes they can do their job. And they will. They're very good at that. But the second part is about finding facilities to build bombs and things like that. IAEA is not capable of that. You need an intelligence network to do that. You need good analysts to do that. And we haven't seen any sign at this point that IAEA's work is up to snuff. That's a separate agreement, and it should just be thrown in the trash.